Hello, all of my grots and gits. Welcome to Happy Corrupted Wargaming. I have a pretty amazing video up for you today. This has been one of the most confusing things for a lot of my coaching clients. So what I figured is if they have questions about it, you guys have questions about it. Today we are going to learn all about reactive movements and how the heck we're going to deal with it on the tabletop in the 41st millennia. There are a ton of these different types of reactive movement abilities, such as you and a move within 9 inches of me, then I get to move, and they cause all sorts of problems in play of the game. So we got to figure out how to handle these things so that we can dominate the tabletop and dominate our opponents, with love. But let's hop right into the video. What is reactive movement? All right, so essentially all it is opponent's movement that occurs during your turn. And it's typically going to be limited by the movement characteristic, although not always. So a bunch of examples of what we are going to go over in this video, and I am going to give very specific instructions on how to counteract this. I'm going to be using TTS, so I'm going to show you how you want to move your models on the tabletop so that you can get the maximum out of this video as possible. And if you like these types of videos, take a moment and hit the like and subscribe button, and go ahead and share this video with your friends, because that is what lets me know that I'm doing a good job, and it lets me know that you want me to bring more of these things. And honestly, it's the only way that my channel grows so that I can be able to support myself as I'm continuing to put out this content for you. So we got Phantasm, Blood Surge, which is unique to like Khorne Berserkers. There's also Carnifexes that can do that, and that would be the type of reactive movement where you're like, you shoot them and then they get to move. And by the way, each one of these categories I'm going to break down very specifically. This is just the general overview of what we're talking about today. You've got the Heroic Intervention Stratagem, which is definitely a form of reactive movement, which can screw your game up, and we're going to go through that a lot. You have Squad Tactics, and Squad Tactics will be all sorts of you end a movement within 9 inches, a fallback, advance, whatever, and then I get to move. So there's a bunch of different units in the game that have this type of ability. We're going to go through Mist of Deimos, how that works, and we're going to definitely go through Rapid Ingress. And we're going to talk about not only how each of these individual abilities work, we're going to show you how to defeat them. So let's hop right into the very first one. We're going to start with some of the army-specific abilities, and this is the Eldar. The Eldar is the LOL nope move in Warhammer 40,000. Currently, with the most recent data slate, it is not nearly as overpowered as it previously was, although it is still very, very good. The thing that makes Phantasm unique over other reactive movements is Phantasm happens at the end of your opponent's movement phase. So they don't have to choose their movement when you move within 9 inches of them. So you basically cannot bait them to waste it. They get to see your entire movement phase, all of your positioning before they make their decision of when they want to move. So previously what would have happened is they would put, say, like a lone op character on an objective, and then you would move. And at the end of your movement turn, they would just say, haha, and they would jump it 7 inches away where it was impossible to interact with it. Now it's not that reliable because they only get to move d6 inches. However, it is still very, very good, and especially the fact that it happens at the end of the movement phase. So how do we counteract this particular thing? Well, I'm going to go to the TTS view now, and I'm going to definitely answer this question, and we're going to show how we're going to make this work. All right, so right here in the middle, I've got a Autarch Wayleaper, and he's hanging out, and I've also got a unit of Dire Avengers. Now, for the purposes of demonstrations for this video, we're going to ignore things like Overwatch and other things in the game, because I'm just going to show you the mechanics of how I want you to defeat this. You're going to have to use your own brilliance to avoid the other horrible things that can happen to you. So let's say I have my Beast Snagaboys, and they really desperately need to take this objective right now. And so in doing so, I really want to make sure I kill this Autarch Wayleaper. Well, they only get to move 6 inches. So they move 6 inches. And right now, sorry about that, guys. We'll just flip these guys. So right now, they are going to have let's say he's here, a 6-inch charge, into both the Autarch and the Dire Avengers. Now, the reason why this is going to work is because at the end of my movement phase, my opponent is going to spend 1 CP and he's going to Phantasm. And he's going to roll a dice, and let's just say it's a 6, which means he's going to take this Autarch Wayleaper and he's going to put him here. Which means now I can no longer charge the Wayleaper because it is an impossible charge. However, I can still charge these Dire Avengers, which means I'll charge them, I'll kill them, I'll take the points. I might even be able to pile into the Autarch, although for other reasons you might not want to do that. Now, this is how you actually counteract Phantasm. You have to set yourself up to be able to get multiple charges. It would also work in this exact situation. You move your Beast Snaggers up, and they're getting ready to charge because they really want to kill the Autarch. So they move up at the end of the movement phase. your opponent phantasms, walks away. Well, you still have another target to redirect into. If you don't have another target to redirect into, say this is where those Dire Avengers are standing. Now you're going to try to charge this Autarch. He's going to move away. You can't charge, and then in his turn, it's basically free for him to move up and just kill your Beast Snagaboys. So you wasted your unit. So the only time you're going to want to move out to kill a unit when Eldar have the Phantasm ability up is if they have multiple units they want to protect, or if you can set it up in such a manner, such as this, where, okay, in order to save his Autarch Wayleaper, he still has to sacrifice the Dire Avengers. And in this situation, you're happy to trade. It works totally fine. But you never really want to dedicate resources just for this one guy, because he's always going to move. In the same vein, you don't necessarily want to be moving up to shoot him. So let's get rid of the Snagas because they don't really shoot. Now let's pretend that we're using these Dire Avengers to fight, and they want to come out, and they want to kill this Autarch. Well, they're going to move all the way out, and they're going to come up right about here. So they're always all wholly within the terrain, or just light out so they can actually draw a true line of sight. And then this Autarch, at the end of your movement phase, he's just going to spend his CP, and let's say he rolls that 6. Yeah, he just rolls that 6, and he's just going to move to right here. So now you can't really draw line of sight, except for maybe for a couple of them. Not all of them. Or hell, let's just say he moves back here to make it simple, because I'm trying to demonstrate. So it works in shooting, and it works in melee, so you don't want to fall into the trap either way. They can move for shooting to protect themselves. They can move for melee to protect themselves. So always give yourself multiple charge options, because you know your opponent is going to try to remove the model so that you waste your movement and then you just die immediately. So that is Phantasm. That's how we're going to handle it. Let's go back to the PowerPoint, and we're going to look at the next reactive movement ability that we desperately need to learn how to handle. This is the Mist of Deimos. Now, Mist of Deimos is a unbelievably strong ability, which will allow your Grey Knight opponent to, once per turn, when you end a normal move, advance, or fallback move within 9 inches of one of their units, they get to pick them back up into strategic reserves. Now, this combos exceptionally powerfully with one of the generic stratagems, which we will talk about a little bit later, called Rapid Ingress. Because technically what they can do, they can pick the model up with using the 1 CP for Mist of Deimos, and then on the exact same unit, they can then Rapid Ingress at the end of your movement phase. Bring them back onto the board. It is very, very powerful, and it can cause huge problems if you don't know how to handle it. So essentially, what we will need to accomplish, and I'm going to show you on the TTS view as well, what we're going to need to accomplish is we are going to have to accept the fact that if you want to charge a unit in Grey Knights, you're going to have to do one of two things. One, you're going to have to pray that you make a 9-inch charge. Or, I mean, if you have modifiers, perhaps it's like, you just have to start your charge from outside of 9 inches of the model so that they can never use the stratagem to teleport them back up, or to pick them back up into reserves. The other option is what you can do is you can bait out the Mist of Deimos. So let me go back to the TTS, and I'm going to kind of show you exactly what I mean by that. And using the magical internet, boom, we are back on TTS. So I've set up a little bit of a scenario here. So I have, let's say I have, I'm going to get rid of these Eldar here for right now. Let's say I have a bunch of Beast Snagaboys, and I want to charge these Terminators. And I also want to charge this Nemesis Dread Knight. Well, my Beast Snagaboys, if they move within 9 inches of this Nemesis Dread Knight, now my opponent has the ability to say, nope, I'm going to pick up my Nemesis Dread Knight and teleport him away. And then you're kind of screwed, because now you cannot teleport. Now you can't ever charge that Nemesis Dread Knight, which really kind of sucks. So your options are, one, you just move to be just outside of 9 inches so that you have to try to rely on a 9-inch charge, which you only have a 27% chance of making that charge. Or what you do is you have to try to bait him to pick up the Terminators first. So let me demonstrate. So I'm also going to move my Snagas in position to try to kill these Terminators. Now that I've moved within 3 inches or within the 9-inch range of the Terminators, my opponent has to decide whether he wants to teleport his Terminators away, or if he wants to save it and wait for the Nemesis Dread Knight. If he chooses not to teleport this unit, you can then take other forces from other parts of the board and really hammer them in here to make sure that you guarantee this kill, right? to try to force him to once again pick up this unit. As soon as this unit does get picked up, then you're free to move in as close as you want to the Nemesis Dread Knight because he can no longer teleport him away. So that's the way that you're going to have to play against Miscedamus. You're going to have to ensure that you can bait it out of him first, or you accept that you're going for, say, like a 9-inch re-rollable charge. Now, the other thing to be aware of with this stratagem is once he teleports that unit away, you have to be very, very careful, because at the end of your movement phase, he can then place his Nemesis Dread Knight just down right over here. So that in his turn, he's going to be able to walk over here, shoot, and charge you. And it's very, very powerful. So you have to be aware that if he picks it up with using the Miscedamus, he can then place it around. So you're going to have to keep that in mind as you're positioning yourself across the board. Now, if you want more details on how to do that, sign up for a coaching call and we'll go through all of that. That's a little bit advanced for me to go through just general strategies for everyone on that one. But it is totally possible to handle it. I promise you that. It's just a little bit tricky. So let's go back into the PowerPoint and we are going to figure out what our next reactive movement that we have to talk about is. And the next movement is going to be the Calculated Feint. Now, this is one that's getting a lot of controversy on the internet. Calculated Feint is a Vanguard detachment, a Space Marine stratagem. So when you are declared as the target of a charge, you get to move D6 inches away, or a flat 6 inches if you are a Phobos unit. So this can create some really problematic issues for you. If you are forcing your opponent, if your opponent charges you, and let's say they're going for a 9-inch charge, and then you move 6 inches away, what's going to happen is you will then be allowed to redeclare your charge as per the rules commentary. So the correct way for your Marine player to really trap their opponents is when they declare a charge against a target, you want to move your target so it's, say, an 11.9-inch charge now to be successfully completed, so that your opponent cannot redeclare the charge target. Or, even better, you can move it to be an 11 or a 10-inch charge, but be behind a building, and so now suddenly it's impossible to actually complete the charge, but technically it's possible because it's still within range. That's also a very, very good way to screw your opponent. So let me demonstrate how this works on TTS for you guys, and then we're going to talk about how we get to handle it, all right? So let's go back to the TTS view, and here we go. So I've kind of set up a little scenario here. So I have my Beast Nagas, and they have moved in for a 7-inch charge on the kill team, and a 7-inch charge on the Jump Assault Intercessors. Now, we're going to pretend for this scenario that the Space Marines here are in the Vanguard detachment. Now, my Beast Nagas really, really want to charge the kill team. So they're going to declare a charge against both squads here, because both squads are 7 inches, so they're going to declare a charge against both squads. Now, my kill team really doesn't want to get charged by the Beast Nagas because the Beast Nagas are probably going to kill him. So they're going to use the Calculated Feint stratagem. And let's pretend that they rolled a 6. So suddenly what they're going to do is they're going to move their models 6 inches backwards. Now, they don't want to move 100% 6 inches backwards, right? If they move completely 6 inches backwards, they're going to take my Beast Nagas out of range, and my Beast Nagas will then be able to redeclare the charge target to only be the Vanguard veterans. Instead, what they're going to do is they're going to move every single model except for maybe like one of them out of range. Just pretend that was 6. I'm being a little sloppy there. It's okay. So now what has to happen is the Beast Nagas are going to have to roll an 11 to charge. And even if they do roll an 11, it's still going to be an impossible charge. Because even if I roll an 11, I can't move through my opponent's models. Which means that I can't make this charge, even though it's technically legal. So what happens is I will automatically fail the charge, and the Space Marines player has baited you, and now they have automatically made this an impossible charge, even though it's technically possible. So this is how they're going to set you up with this ability. So how do we counteract it? Well, we're going to counteract it exactly the same way as we would the Grey Knights with the Miscedamus stratagem. We're going to have to set them up. You have to bait it, or you have to set them up into an impossible position. So what will happen is, let's say I have my Beast Naga boys here, and all of these guys are just kind of dispersed in between the jetpack infantry. You have to give them no option of where to move. So this is a pincer attack. One of the really cool things I have learned about Warhammer 40,000 since I've been coaching and really getting into the competitive play, guys, is that real world strategies for like war actually apply to 40k. So right here, I've got him set up in a pincer. So even when I declare my charge and I got a 7-inch into both, say he rolls that sweet 6, he's still going to be giving up the charge to this squad. So now the squad will still go ahead and get to charge in and kill the assault intercessors and then consolidate in to the death company, the death watch kill team. So I'm still going to be successful by charging over here, even though I'm going to fail this charge. So you have to set your opponent up into a situation where they have no good choices, and that is how you're going to handle the calculated fates. All right, let's get back to the PowerPoint because we have a few more to talk about. Now, the rest of them might go a little bit faster because they're not quite as complex, but there are a few issues that I still definitely need to talk about here, okay? Move, win, shots. All right, this is a super rare and super powerful ability. Khorne Berserkers and Carnifexes are, I think, the only ones with it, although there might be one or two other there that I'm missing. If you can think of any others that might be out there, type them into the chat and or into the comment section because I'd like to know what they are. All right, essentially what this allows is when they are shot, for Khorne Berserkers, a model has to die. For the Carnifexes, a model has to take a wound. They get to roll a d6 for Khorne Berserkers, or d6 plus 2 for Carnifexes, and they get to move that many inches after they have been shot. The caveat is that they have to move the unit closer to the unit to the closest enemy unit. Now, read that wording because that wording is very critical. The unit must end a movement closer to the as close as possible to the closest enemy unit. That, my friend, is very tricky. So, what it means is that every model in the enemy unit that has been shot does not have to move closer, just the whole unit itself. Now, this can be very wordy, it can be very confusing, so I've set it up on TTS to demonstrate so that you're not going to be confused by this. So let me go on back and get us so we're all understanding of how it works and understanding of how powerful it can be and how to potentially counter it. So I'm going to go back to the live view, or to the TTS view, and here we are. Okay, so here, let me grab my Khorne Berserkers. I got some Khorne Berserkers right here. Let's get rid of these dudes, and I'll bring back my Dire Avengers. So in the purest sense of it, essentially what's going to happen is these Dire Avengers are going to shoot the Khorne Berserkers, and like 2 Berserkers are going to die. Or 1 Berserker dies. They then get to roll they get to move d6 inches closer. So let's say they move 6, and they get to right here. Now the Eldar player is sweating a little bit. But let's say the Eldar player was not being super intelligent, and they decided to shoot the Berserkers again with a second unit of Dire Avengers, and they killed another one. Well, now the Khorne Berserkers roll a d6, and let's say they only roll a 4 this time. But because of the special rule of this ability, of the move when shot ability, they get to end an engagement range, which that will count as a charge. Well, or effectively, it'll count them as if they, it counts as charge. So what's going to happen now is this Eldar player is going to lose this Dire Avenger squad because those Khorne Berserkers are going to mince them. They're going to have absolutely no chance of surviving, and it's going to be a really bad day. And then in the World Eater's turn, the Khorne Berserkers will just charge this unit and kill them. So it is a very good, very strong ability. So how do we play around it? Well, there's a couple ways. One is quite simple. You just wipe the entire unit in your first shooting activation. So you don't shoot them unless you're confident that you can kill the whole squad. That's a pretty good way of handling it. But let me show you something else. Let's say that the Khorne player, let's say this unit does not exist, and the Khorne player really wants to be on this objective because this is very tricky. The Dire Avengers shoot, they kill 1 Berserker, and they roll a 3 for their Berserker Rage or whatever the ability is called. They can then move 3 inches here. So all they're going to have to do is one model is going to have to move as close as possible towards the closest enemy unit to fulfill the requirement that the whole unit is now closer. It's because it's not, or to fill the requirement that the unit moves closer, because it doesn't have to be the whole unit. It just has to be the unit in general. At this point, these 3 models are free to move wherever they want. They can do this if they want. Just to keep coherency for you guys. So they can actually use this to get free movement to capture objectives and to move wherever they want, which is really, really strong. So essentially, you don't want to do this unless you know you can wipe the squad. Or, let's say these Custodes are the closest enemy unit, you're very comfortable with forcing them to go into engagement here. If you're very comfortable with that, you can do this as well. I've done this using things like rhinos or trucks. I'll put the truck to make sure that they're the closest to the Khorne berserkers, and then I'll shoot them. And then what will happen is the berserkers have to move into the truck, and then what you're able to do is you're able to charge them with other units to try to wipe them. And then the ones that are in base-to-base contact with the custodians in this situation, or the truck in the hypothetical situation, will have to fight the units that they're base to base in, or within engagement range of. And it can be very, very useful for getting rid of, say, pesky World Eater Master of Executions. I have an entire video dedicated on how to beat fights first units, and that's one of the ways that you do it. But for this situation, just know that they will have to move closer to the closest enemy unit. But even in this situation, the Khorne berserkers, if they're shot by the Dire Avengers here, one has to do this, the others can still do this. So they can still grab that objective. Although this is a suicide mission, they wouldn't want to do that, obviously. And also, they don't have to move if they choose not to. They can choose not to roll. But that's how you're going to counter it. You either wipe it in one, or you put a unit that you want them to engage really, really close to them. And then that's how you're going to handle this. So let's go on back to the PowerPoint to finish up with the last few ones, and then I'm going to let you guys go for the day. All right, and we are back to the PowerPoint after finishing a normal, advanced / fallback. Now, there are a bunch of examples of this in the game. So you've got Rangers, you've got Squad Tactics, you've got Ceaseless Hunter, you've got tons of different abilities that just allow a model or a unit to move after an enemy unit has moved within 9 inches. There are tons of these across the board, and they're all relatively easy to handle. Mainly, the trick is that you want to bait your opponent into moving. So if I have like 3 units that want to go into a reactive ranger unit, I just have to wait to see where they're going to move. So my very first unit, I'm going to move within 9 inches and allow the rangers to move. And if the rangers choose to move that time, that's great. Then I will know where to put my other 2 units so that I can charge them. Let me demonstrate. It's pretty dang simple. This one goes really, really fast. We'll go back to the live view. All right. So I have this unit of rangers right here. My beast snaggers are going to move 6 inches because they want to go charge the rangers. The rangers say, nope, we're not about that life. We're going to move our 6 inches or whatever, D6 inches, and we're going to end up here. Well, then I have another unit of beast snaggers that's ready to come and kill them, and they can't move again. It's basically that simple. There's another scenario that we need to talk about that I'm going to use these Terminators led by a shield captain to illustrate. So let's say this shield captain is engaged in melee, and he has the Ceaseless Hunter upgrade, which will allow him and his unit to move up to 6 or up to their maximum movement value, so 5 inches for them, if an enemy unit finishes a normal move, an advance, or a fallback within 9 inches of them. So essentially what you're going to want to do, because you don't want to allow them to move, you're going to want to move all of your models first to get them all into position. And then lastly, you're going to want to fall back your units that are engaged with them. Now, when you end this fallback move, the Terminators will be able to conduct their normal move. But they can only do up to a normal maximum distance, which means they're not going to be able to get away. So you want to do all your movements first to limit their opportunities for when they want to move. And it's pretty much that simple. So then I think lastly, we're going to talk about some of the generic stratagems and how we're going to handle those, because those are also very, very big damn deals. So let me go on into that. So generic reactive movements, essentially what you've got is you've got rapid ingress and you've got heroic intervention. Rapid ingress, I'm not going to really demonstrate, but that is just super critical to be aware of the fact that your opponent can deep strike or arrive from strategic reserves at the end of your turn 2 or beyond. There's no situation in the game where your opponent can rapid ingress in your turn in round 1. So we can stop asking that question. It just doesn't exist. It's always going to be in turn 2 or later. Even if you have the ability to deep strike in turn 1, you can't rapid ingress in turn 1 because that is a separate ability. Okay. That's cleared up. But so rapid ingress, you're going to have to be very, very aware of the fact that your opponent can end at 9 inches away from you in your turn, which means in their turn, they can then move, basically get a free charge or free shooting lanes. So you have to make sure that you screen it. But let's talk briefly about heroic intervention, because this is one that people haven't really touched on, and it's an extremely powerful ability, and I want to go over how powerful exactly it is for you guys. So let me go back to the TTS view, and I think this is just about, oh, I do have one more after this, but there you go. go pretty dang quick. So this is going to be very robust, and it's going to improve your gameplay a ton. So let's say that I'm right here, and I have these 3 Terminators, and they want to kill these Beast Nagas. Let's say they kill 5 Beast Nagas. Then they're going to really, really want to charge the Beast Nagas, right? And I have a... let's say it's like this. This is the way the squad is set up. And I have a 4-inch charge. So I'm going to roll the charge, and they are going to roll 4 inches. So this guy is going to go 4 inches forward. And then these guys get to go 4 inches forward. And then this guy gets to go 4 inches forward. Cool. So now what's going to happen is I'm going to spend 2 CP to heroically intervene with all my Gretchen. Let me just put measure movement on to make this easier for us. So then I'm going to get to spend 2 CP, and then I get to roll a charge with my Gretchen. The reason why I'm going to do this is not because I think my Gretchen are going to kill the Terminators, but because I know one Terminator can't kill my whole Beast Naga squad. So I'm going to go ahead and charge these guys in, and I'm going to end up, say I roll a 7, all right? And I'm going to end up basing these guys all the way over here. So now what's going to happen is at this point in the game, even though my opponent charged and goes first, he cannot kill these Beast Nagas because he only has 1 model that's within engagement range, and he's not allowed to pile in with these 2 because I based him. So these guys have to waste all their attacks into the Gretchen, meaning this one that's left, he's the only one who can attack the Beast Nagas, and he does not have enough attacks to kill the Beast Nagas. So then my Beast Nagas will, after, let's say that all these Gretchen die, because of course they will, they're fighting Custodes Terminators. Now my Beast Nagas get to pile in, and they get to hit the Alaris Terminators relatively safely. Something like that. So now maybe they even get to kill 1. So then in the Orc's turn, they can then charge again. So that's the way that you want to use your heroic interventions to guarantee that your opponent can't pile in into range to get to attack the thing that they really want to attack. So heroic intervention is very, very strong. Just as a caveat, the heroic intervention does not give you fights first. That is really important that you understand this. It does not give you fights first. The fights first is a bonus that comes on from charging in your charge turn. So it doesn't give you fights first to heroic intervene. It does, however, activate other charge bonuses. So let's say that I have these assault Terminators, and these Beast Nagas charge my Terminators. Well, now I can spend 2 CP to heroically intervene with the assault intercessors. They charge in. They do activate their special ability to cause mortals on the charge. Now, don't get confused. This is just a special ability on the data sheet of the assault intercessors that they cause mortals when they charge. So now they cause maybe, I don't know, 3 mortals, 3 Beast Nagas die. And they will also, if they have, say, if they had Lance on their profile, they would activate the Lance as well. But they don't get to fight first. The Beast Nagas would still fight first in this situation. That can be a little confusing. If you're confused by it a bunch, hit me up. I offer coaching services where I explain everything in exquisite detail, and we practice and we drill it to make sure that you have absolutely everything you need to know about that. This is actually the last part of today that I want to go through. We're going to talk about really, really rapidly. We're going to talk about our scoot and shoot abilities. Now, technically, this isn't necessarily a reactive movement, but it is a really annoying thing that you have to be able to handle. So scoot and shoot abilities is when your opponent shoots and then they get to move. Super damn annoying. One of the most horrible examples of these would be, well, obviously Eldar, because Eldar are just awful in general, but we have the Dark Eldar Scourge. So Dark Eldar Scourge are really, really powerful units that have the ability to shoot you with their Dark Lances, and then they get to move away. So let me just show what it looks like, and then I'm just going to tell you, honestly, there's no way to deal with it. You can't handle it. There's just nothing you can actually do about it other than overwatch them in the movement phase when they're trying to set up to do their shooting. The only other way to really handle this is with basically indirect or making good deep strike charges. And which is why it's such a dang strong ability, because they're going to shoot you and then they're going to disappear and you're not going to be able to draw a line of sight on them anymore. It's just a really, really big issue. And honestly, I don't even think I need to show you that on TTS. We're just going to leave it as is. So guys, this was my guide to handle reactive movements. There are a ton of them in the game. Make sure that if you enjoy this content, please give me that like and subscription. That is how my videos get out to other people. That's how I grow my channel, how I grow my brand, and how I can continue to make more and more and bring more of this to you guys to make sure that everyone is playing at top-notch in the Warhammer 40k universe. Until next time, everybody, crump on and have a beautiful, blessed day. Bye-bye.